5 disturbing road trip horror stories. Story 1: The Wrong Turn. In 2016, Lisa and her friends decided to take a spontaneous road trip to a national park. They relied on a GPS app for directions, but it led them down a narrow, winding road through a dense forest. The further they drove, the more uneasy they felt. The road seemed endless, and they hadn't seen another car in hours. As night fell, they realized they were hopelessly lost. Suddenly, the car's engine died, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. They tried calling for help, but there was no cell signal. Desperate, they decided to walk back to the main road. After a few minutes of walking, they heard rustling in the bushes. Thinking it was an animal, they continued, but the rustling grew louder and closer. Panicked, they started running. They stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin and decided to take refuge inside. The cabin was cold and musty, with broken furniture and cobwebs everywhere. They barricaded the door and tried to wait out the night. Throughout the night, they heard footsteps circling the cabin and soft tapping on the windows. At dawn, they cautiously emerged to find strange symbols carved into the cabin walls. They finally managed to get a signal and called for help. When the police arrived, they were told that the area was known for mysterious disappearances. Shaken, they left and never spoke of the incident again. Story 2: The Mysterious Hitchhiker. In 2017, Mike and his girlfriend Sarah were on a road trip to visit her parents. On a lonely stretch of highway, they spotted a hitchhiker with a suitcase. Feeling generous, they pulled over and offered him a ride. The man, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, climbed into the back seat and thanked them. He said he was heading to the next town. As they drove, Sarah noticed the man staring intently at her in the rearview mirror, making her uncomfortable. Suddenly, the man started mumbling incoherently. When Mike asked him to repeat himself, the hitchhiker disappeared, vanished into thin air, leaving his suitcase behind. Shocked and terrified, they pulled over to inspect the suitcase. Inside, they found old, faded photos of the hitchhiker and a family from the 1950s. They reported the incident to the police, who revealed that the hitchhiker had been a local legend. He was a man who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago, and many travelers claimed to have seen his ghost. The experience haunted Mike and Sarah for years. Story 3: The Abandoned Gas Station. In 2018, David and his friends were on a road trip through the desert. Running low on gas, they were relieved to find an old, isolated gas station. The place looked abandoned, but the pump still worked. As they filled up, David went inside to pay. The interior was dusty and filled with old, decaying merchandise. An elderly man behind the counter seemed oddly familiar, but David couldn't place him. The man handed David a receipt with a warning: "Be careful on these roads. Strange things happen at night." As they drove away, they noticed a figure standing by the side of the road in the rearview mirror. When they looked back, it was gone. That night, they camped out but were awoken by strange noises and whispers. In the morning, they found their car covered in handprints. They later learned that the gas station had burned down years ago, killing the owner and several customers. The elderly man David saw matched the description of the deceased owner. They never spoke of the eerie encounter again, but the handprints remained a chilling reminder. Story 4: The Deserted Town. In 2019, Emma and her friends were on a cross-country road trip when they decided to explore a small, deserted town they stumbled upon. The town looked like it had been abandoned for years, with crumbling buildings and overgrown vegetation. As they walked through the eerie streets, they felt like they were being watched. They found a small diner and decided to take a break. Inside, everything was covered in dust, but the jukebox suddenly started playing an old tune. Startled, they quickly left the diner. Outside, they heard footsteps following them, but saw no one. They ran back to their car, only to find it wouldn't start. Panicking, they decided to spend the night in the car. Throughout the night, they heard whispers and saw shadowy figures moving around. At dawn, the car finally started, and they sped away. Later, they learned that the town had been abandoned after a series of mysterious deaths. The locals believed it was cursed. The experience left them deeply unnerved, and they vowed never to explore abandoned places again. Story 5: The Phantom Driver. In 2020, James and his wife Anna were on a road trip to visit their relatives. Driving through a remote mountain pass, they noticed a car following them closely. No matter how fast they went, the car stayed right on their tail. As they reached a narrow, winding section of the road, the car tried to overtake them. In the process, it swerved and went off the cliff. Shocked, they stopped and looked down, but saw no sign of the car. They called the police, who searched the area but found nothing. The officer who arrived seemed disturbed and told them that they weren't the first to report such an incident. Many drivers had claimed to see a phantom car that disappeared after causing accidents. The area was known for a tragic accident years ago, where a car had gone off the cliff, killing the driver instantly. James and Anna left the area quickly, haunted by the thought that they had encountered the ghost of the unfortunate driver. The experience left them deeply shaken and cautious on remote roads.